Welcome back, Challenger Series faithful, to special coverage of a series that was played out on earlier in the day with Delta Fox going up against Tempo Storm. Let's hop right into the game and pick some bans. Well, actually, this is going against Gokon United.
No, I've seen Tempo Storm. You got it right the first time around, yeah.
All right, going up and pick some bans for game number 2. They played Gokon United earlier today. This is the match from last night.
Yes. Anyways, the pick ban, as we were saying, very surprised to see a Jax picked into an early pick Nunu Braum. That's a champion that is going to need to snowball pretty hard in the split push situation to hopefully be able to offset the fact that he will have a really hard time team fighting. Overall, the side of Tempo Storm does not have much in the way of team fighting. You have a Karma, which you usually want to pair with, you know, some other like range threats. And while they do have a Lucian who benefits from that, not much else. The speed up will be nice, I guess, on the Blitzcrank. On the side of Delta Fox, you just have a completely standard team fight, team comp here. Braum, Nunu, Viktor, Tristana, super strong late game scaling. The Gnar on the top side generally is a pretty strong team fighter as well if you can manage the rage correctly. Also can split push if he gets ahead, but generally has a tough time against Jax in that mini form. If it comes a little bit of a game trying to avoid getting stunned, because if you get caught out in the stun, it can be a pretty bad time for you.
Yes, we'll see if Delta Fox here is going to be able to replicate the success they had in game number 1, or if it's going to be Tempo Storm trying to tie things up here in this best of 3. Tempo Storm, as you mentioned, fighting in 3rd place right now, could potentially move up to the 2nd place spot depending on how the Gokon United versus Delta Fox series that I got mixed up with before earlier went today. But Tempo Storm, if they were able to take this victory here, still have to go for one more game against Delta Fox. Is now Dyrus, was able to spot out everybody from Tempo Storm, trying to camp him right from the get-go at level 1.
Yeah, you know the strategy, camp the Dyrus. This is definitely a game where, you know, if this game goes late, I don't see a way that Tempo Storm's comp can win. They are vastly outranged in their 4v4, assuming that, you know, for the most part, Gnar and Jax are split out. And the Jax will, of course, have probably some split push pressure over the Gnar, but if things are even close to even, it'll be hard for him to get enough done to offset what's going to be happening on the other side of the map. Because if you know, the 4v4 is equal and Delta Fox can walk forward with the Nunu, you don't care if you get grabbed as a Nunu, you're fine with that, and you'll get control of a Baron Pit, and you'll get control of a Dragon Pit, and you can kind of just snowball off objectives while you slowly lose the split push.
Oh, Sheep, he's gonna walk into the brush, he gets stunned up, he gets charged up, but he's actually gonna be okay.
Does lose a significant chunk of health, might have to go back and recall into lane now. That's what you see him doing right now. Actually pops a potion. Biscuit wants to stay around to protect this red buff potentially. And already Tempo Storm's bot lane starting off on the back foot.
Yeah, so Tempo Storm going to be disadvantaged in the bot lane here. However, looks like Scarra's Nunu is going to get a little bit of a later start, but Nunu being one of those champions who can stand himself up with his own consumes, doesn't necessarily need the leash from his bottom lane. You see him starting on that blue buff. So Tempo Storm, slight fallback on the bottom side of the map, but still making sure that Wiggly's able to get his early clear going forward. So you see now Quas, level 1, taking that counter-strike, already punishing Dyrus and giving a good example of what happens when Mini Gnar gets stunned up by Jax.
All right, that's what we were saying, is that as the Mini Gnar form, you do kind of get abused a little bit. Karma in the mid lane also is a decent matchup early on. We'll be able to kind of push in and bully out a little bit as Dyrus almost going down. Already taking a lot of damage. Just going to need to try and stabilize a little bit here early on.
Yep, has hit level 2 for himself, even though Quas was the one that was bullying him early on. So Quas was getting the bully damage down. Dyrus, a small CS advantage early on, but of course we're still in single digits. That's not huge, but Dyrus getting a little bit abused here. Maybe having Quas getting a little bit of revenge for game number 1. Wiggily actually padding up here extremely early. Dyrus does have his summoner spells available, but Quas going to continue to go in here. Double flash to stun, to knock up the everything. First blood goes over to Quas at level 2.
And it's very hard, to be fair, on the side of Dyrus to know that gank is coming. You know he started down the bot side, and I'm guessing he took the XP points. Oh, actually, no, the Wolf Camp is down, so he just did a standard clear up there. If that's the case, Dyrus has to be a lot more intelligent about that. It's not as early as I thought that was going to be. You know that you are going to be the focal point. When you see this draft out of Tempo Storm, you know that you will be the focus of early action, and you need to play extremely early on, safe early on, especially given the fact that you got chunked out in the first couple waves, that they're going to continue focusing him. And here, once again, building up a big wave, wanting to try and pressure him. At half health, no ward out, jungler clearing up to the top side, you have to know that there's a potential to get ganked at any point there.
Just very good execution there from Tempo Storm. Quas getting into good position just so you can leap on the Dyrus and then flash afterwards, so you didn't have to necessarily blow a summoner spell just to get that gank off. And good coordination between him and Wiggily just to seal the deal on that one. As you mentioned before, Wiggily going from red buff to Raptor camp to Wolf camp straight up to gank Dyrus is able to get himself his blue buff this time around, since, you know, there's no Blitzcrank shenanigans going on to steal that early buff away from him. Meanwhile, Tempo Storm's bottom side of the map here, while they were distracted a little bit in the early stages, having to basically protect the red buff for Wiggily to get his jungle clear going on. Small CS advantage, and then getting the push on against this Braum Tristana combination.
Not too bad on the side of Tempo Storm. If you're Dyrus, you're happy though, we're not happy, but at the very least, Tempo Storm had to use 2 flashes to get that kill, so it's not as easy as a follow-up gank. Here, they're going to take this 2v2 on the top side, jumping in onto Quas. Snowball lands.
Ooh, and Dyrus transforms back into Mini-Gnar before he's actually able to land the wall of crowd control. Wiggily picks up another kill on the Dyrus, and now Scarra basically has to walk away since he's in the Nunu at level 4. It doesn't really do all too much. Yeah,
Nunu, definitely more of that control-style jungler. You put him in 2v2 skirmishes, can really struggle to have an influence on them. If they had Mini-Gnar, maybe you're putting Scarra in front and having him frontline a little bit for the Mini-Gnar, you can take that fight, but Dyrus used his jump in right as his Mega-Gnar form was expiring, loses that hard CC, and then is able to get jumped on in response by the side of Tempo Storm. Now 2 kills on the side of Dyrus, and already almost a 1,000 gold lead for Tempo Storm, and this is the exact situation that you need to kind of guarantee your win condition in the late game. Have that Jack snowballing, which is definitely on course right now.
Yep, there you see just a replay of this game. Scarra was coming up here just to make sure that they could apply pressure on the Quas, but Wiggily was already there and waiting.
Yep, so you see both teams kind of reading the situation. There's a big minion wave pushing into the side of Tempo Storm, and they go up there to catch that potential follow-up that, you know, Nunu's going up there to secure that minion wave as it goes in, make sure that they can get it. Now, Dyrus getting jumped on again by Quas, trying to take this all in.
Yeah, actually he just kind of walked up to him, still had the leap strike available if he wanted to try to gap close on the Dyrus. He decides to just walk away from this one. Selfie in the mid lane in the meantime on this Karma pickup here. Continue to trade down against Voyboy, and actually Tempo Storm all behind the tower onto poor Voyboy, tries to flash away, tries to ghost away, cannot get out of there, and a kill goes over to Wiggily.
Really nice roam on the side of Tempo Storm, being able to get the Blitzcrank behind this early aggression. You're trying to snowball as best you can against this team comp of Delta Fox, which might outscale you a little bit later. The one problem that Delta Fox team comp has that we were kind of saying with the pressure that Karma will have, as we see another hook here on the Scarra, as this mid turret's getting extremely low early on. The big problem is that you have a lot of lack of proactivity in your early game. You have almost no one who has pressure in their lane, no one who can really make a nice gank happen. And here you see Tempo Storm with that pressure in the mid lane. They push Voyboy in, and then they just have the roaming Blitzcrank and the Rek'Sai move in for this 3-man play on the mid side. And it's very difficult for Delta Fox to find an opportunity now to make the gold lead come back in their favor. You can stall out and try and win, but overall, as Dyrus pushed up again on the top side here,
Gnar Jack's against the wall, but he's just going to wind up going down. Quas picking up another kill, 2-0-1 on this Jax. 4 kills to none in favor of Tempo Storm. We're 7 minutes into this game.
Yep, definitely a big problem. We were talking about how the Gnar just needs to try and focus on going even as best he can, and Tempo Storm clearly attacking very aggressively on this top side. Voyboy gets hooked out again.
And he's got no summoner spells available, but Sheep's just going to get the knock up here and trade some damage back down. Chaos Storm goes out, just try to zone away. Reven, in the meantime, is all by himself on this bottom side of the map, so Delta Fox's duo lane going to try their best to get some damage down, but a quick culling's going to clear out the waves. They can't even get any damage on the tower in response.
Tempo Storm able to absorb what little pressure Delta Fox is able to put out just fine. And you see already a 3,000 gold lead about on the side of Tempo Storm. And what I was saying is that it's very hard to find an opportunity for Delta Fox to get back into this game because you can't force a play that easily. If maybe you can teleport Dyrus down and force a 5-man gank around this bot lane, which is one of the few places you still have pressure, but it's still hard to find timings to do that because you have to worry about a potential double TP coming in from the mid lane as well for Tempo Storm, or just the fact that the Karma has priority and can probably roll down to the play first, as well as just generally being a better roamer than Viktor. So Delta Fox already far behind, doesn't have a clear, easy way of getting back into the game, and are just hoping to stabilize most likely and keep this at a 3,000 gold deficit for a little while.
We saw Scarra on the bottom side of the map getting his recall off. Meanwhile, Voyboy has to on the gravity field because Wiggily being extremely proactive on this map. Not only is he ganked on the top side multiple times already, but ooh, Good little hook disjoint there by Imaqtpie Tristana using the rocket jump. But Wiggily being extremely proactive, ganks up on the top side, get that wraparound with Sheep in the mid lane here. And about 8.5 minutes in, they get their first tower of the game, and it's actually in the mid lane of the map.
Kind of the opposite story of last game, where Dyrus was doing extremely well individually on the top side and the bot lane was doing extremely well. This time around, no actual advantages anywhere on the map on the side of Delta Fox. And this is one of the problems that they had all season long, was that they often fell behind extremely early on.
We see the Braum ult being used extremely early on, but a good hook there from Sheep brings them back in, and so many knockups, nowhere Shiptur could go except for down as Lucian picks up a kill.
And Selfie's able to find a good roam this time around. Really nice play with the mid priority that he has. He can go and try and influence either lane. The top matchup is already heavily in your favor. You see a 20 CS lead in that side, as well as the 2 kills on the Jax. You know that it's less important to snowball that side of the map. Get your Lucian going, get your bot side going. They're the ones who are the only one not snowballing so far. So a really good decision out of Selfie to go down there and make that play.
So now Delta Fox, they lose out on the mid lane, they lose out on the top side, and they get a kill, or they get a death actually, on the bottom side of the map. So now, hard pressed to find advantages in pretty much any lane whatsoever. Is now Dyrus going mini form, getting jumped on by Quas, has to hop his way out of that one. Scarra on the Nunu pickup as well, although he hasn't necessarily died or gotten anything done. He hasn't necessarily helped out his team either. Now we see Quas punishing Dyrus here. Sheep just waiting, utilizing the ult with the static field silence and the hook, nabs the kill.
A little bit of a greedy play out of the support there, wants the kill for himself. Ults to silence, make sure that Dyrus can't flash, hits him with a hook. You know, maybe it's not so greedy now that I think about it. You want to just secure that kill, don't want to risk something crazy happening and Dyrus living. Good response out of Scarra. You said he hadn't done much so far. He is a Nunu. The most you can do is trying to run into the enemy jungle and drop wards, keep track of the Rek'Sai. The problem is, your whole top side of the map is getting smashed. So it is very hard to execute that job as a Nunu when no invade will be safe, really. And then on the bot side, while it's doing fine, you have this Blitzcrank roaming around and making it more difficult to get invades off as well. Finds an opening on that dragon, though, as there was some people committed to the top side. But of course, Tempo Storm doing a good job trading, perhaps a Rift Herald for themselves as well.
Yeah, so one objective for Delta Fox, with multiple going over to the side of Tempo Storm, as they got in an early game tower, they got themselves the Rift Herald, and they picked up a couple of kills on the top side of the map as well. So 6 kills to 0, multiple thousands of gold lead, about 4,000 now for Tempo Storm. We're not even 12 minutes into this game yet, Mark, and Tempo Storm are definitely looking a lot more together than they were in game number 1.
To be fair, I think a lot of this does come down to some good individual plays and maybe some lack of respect in some sense out of Delta Fox not playing with the level of discipline that you need. You heard Probably recently talk about in Europe the lack of discipline in some of their players and kind of going for individual plays, and maybe that's a little bit of the case where Delta Fox, hold on, Voyboy getting caught out.
He does have his flash available. We want to be utilizing the Ghost Stone. Is it going to be able to just run away from that?
But yeah, the fact that, you know, you're not always knowing exactly what your role is in any given game, that like, oh, this game I'm just here to farm because I got counterpicked, or I'm the obvious person that they're going to attack, and even though I can win my matchup 1v1, I need to be prepared for the grouped up play. Here, Delta Fox trying to do something, group up around the top side.
The absolute zero is used to draw his tower icon onto Scarra. He's going to be taking this one up as much as possible. More teleports are coming into the fray, as now she's able to pick up the first kill on the Dyrus. Buster Shot gets Jax out of the fray, but now Delta Fox is the ones that initiated the fight. They're the ones that have to try to run away, but a flash knockup comes out from Wiggily. They want to get a flash knockup coming out from Sheep. A jump forward from Quas as Wiggily gets on a killing spree. He takes down Imaqtpie. Now Shiptur trying to find Sanctuary underneath his own tower. Selfie's going to take him down very quickly. 3 kills for none for Tempo Storm.
And that's what we're talking about with the double teleport advantage that comes in for the side of Tempo Storm. Even though that they brought their bot lane up to the top side and had the number advantage, the double teleport comes in with Selfie being able to join in. There also seemed like there was a bit of a read on the play as Wiggily was already on his way up there. That play gets countered out. They give up a ton of kills on the side of Delta Fox, and now Tempo Storm is also going to be able to drop this Rift Herald to try and break their turret.
Meanwhile, Quas just waiting for Dyrus to waltz back in the lane, gets the stun down onto the mini Gnar, has to get the hop away onto his minions, so he will survive, but this tower is going to go over to Rift Herald.
And the perfect game. Oh, it's not quite a perfect game. They did get that dragon.
They got one dragon. The no-hitter.
The no-hitter is in effect on the side of Tempo Storm right now. Gonna have to see if Delta Fox can grab a kill or a turret at some point this game.
We'll have to see. Rift Herald, in the meantime, on the top side, still continuing to push down. The rest of Tempo Storm are grouping up here, and poor Dyrus has to turn tail and run. This tower is going to get focused down by not only the Rift Herald, but multiple members of Tempo Storm. Wait, the Dyrus trying to take down the Rift Herald and trying to defend this one. Will want it going mega, has the Gnar available. Tempo Storm going to respect that so far. We'll back away before this tower goes down. Actually, the hook coming back in. Maybe they won't respect it whatsoever. The Gnar is used already. Dyrus burns his flash. We'll stay alive, actually. Tempo Storm will not go forward with that with no minions.
And the problem for Delta Fox right now is they have 0 ward coverage up on the top side, so they have no idea where anyone is at any given point. Really struggling to find openings at all. And it's one of those things where it's hard to get vision control when you're behind, but they need to find a way.
Ooh, Reven flashing through the gravity field there. Wound up utilizing the Blade of the Rune King as well. Trying to catch out Voyboy here. Delta Fox, though, have been able to secure themselves a red buff. Now be looking for a pick onto Sheep. But he's a little bit too fast with those Moby boots. He's going to wind up waddling himself away on Blitzcrank, getting out of there.
And now there's no wars on the bot side. Delta Fox struggling extremely hard with their vision control, which is a little surprising given the fact that with a Nunu Braum comp, you would think that for the most part they should, you know, have a decent amount of vision control available. Scarra has not yet had the opportunity to grab his tracking knife upgrade, so still going to be behind, doesn't have those wards available to him. Focusing on some early combat stats, which I can kind of understand given the fact that you're so behind, but you can see that it's really difficult for Delta Fox to track any of the movements of Tempo Storm with how low in pressure they all are around the map and the lack of warding tools.
Just playing Summoner's Rift on night mode. It's like they turned off all the lights, they let the dark look a little bit better, but Tempo Storm might be liking that as well, considering how far ahead they are in this game because Delta Fox is unable to really contest anything because of the vision. Dyrus 0-5-0 on this Gnar. I was going to say he had a little bit of a licorice effect in game number 1, where even though they kept trying to go up to him and kept shutting him down, he was staying even in his kills with his deaths and was still picking up additional assists, so he was still a great benefit to the team of Delta Fox. This time around, definitely being a weak point you mentioned from the pick and ban phase was going to be focused down. The Jax is going to be who they're trying to snowball the advantage ahead on, and Dyrus now just kind of feeding into that one intentionally at this point.
Whoa.
0-5-0.
A little
not intentionally feeding,
well,
but he's just going into the play. Like,
I would just say that it felt like maybe not fully aware of the amount of attention he was going to get. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Because the Gnar Jax matchup, you see, it's not like, oh my god, it's Aurelia, it's all inning me over and over and I can't get away. Jax doesn't have as many gap closing tools, and there's a lot of situations where it's not as bad for the Gnar. And I think Dyrus was confident in his ability in the 1v1 matchup to take it and wasn't aware that I need to get a ward out right now at 2:45 to make sure this Rek'Sai doesn't snowball on me, or at 3 minutes or something like that. Got out traded early on as well, so it was a little bit riskier to try and make a venture out into that river. And then that's the problem at really high level play, is that a small mistake gets absolutely blown open by good teams. And the lack of an early ward, as well as losing some of those trades, has basically resulted in Dyrus getting torn apart this game.
As Tempo Storm takes a dragon for themselves here, the Ocean Dragon, and their first of the game going over their way. We can kind of focus down on Wiggily at this point, because he's kind of been a catalyst for Tempo Storm in this game. When he played on Big God's Shackles, he was an okay jungler, kind of run-of-the-mill as far as Challenger Series junglers went. So far this split, he's been a little bit of like an upgrade from where Sentinel was for Tempo Storm. That may not necessarily the most standout player, but him and Selfie have worked together extremely well. Examples in this game is actually Dyrus gets hooked in and taken down here. Selfie picks up the kill credit for this one, but Wiggily has definitely been a catalyst specifically in this game, and something that has enabled Tempo Storm to, well, do what their name suggests, to keep up the pace of play in these games.
It is a pretty different look with Selfie on a Karma, a completely supportive champion, does have some good pressure in the early game, but not at all the kind of carry that we're expecting out of Selfie, who has been the primary force for Tempo Storm's victories. Quas often considered the second one, with a lot of the kind of crazy counter picks he comes up with. Jack's not super crazy, but did seem a little surprising given the comp that he was picking it into, but executing well so far. And that's the big thing, is that Tempo Storm had a game plan, they executed on it. Quas is ahead now, he's able to keep the split push up. Selfie had pressure in mid lane. They roamed to him when he needed the resources, and they were able to get that turret very early on. And the bot lane, once again, not a huge focal point, but Sheep is more about getting out of lane and making plays happen, as we saw him make plays in the mid and top lane.
Yeah, it's a very stark contrast to how Tempo Storm plays when Freeze is in, as he is kind of the one that demands a lot of the large share of the resources from this team. kind of play around the bottom side of the map. Reven this time around is very self-sufficient on this Lucian pickup. Sure, his early game was extremely strong because he's Lucian. He's able to kind of survive in these duels we saw against Voyboy, but that frees up Sheep to move to the other lanes on the map and let these kinds of competitions exist and be options for the side of Tempo Storm. As now we see them pushing their advantages forward into the Delta Fox side of the map, continuing to ward up and clear wards more specifically in the Delta Fox jungle. And this top lane tower, barely any HP on it, is surely going to fall as the rest of Tempo Storm moves up to the top side.
Snowball continues above 10,000 gold now with that turret dropping down. Tempo Storm in commanding lead. Unfortunately, early into the game, so they can't actually take a Baron or anything to help them push these turrets a little bit easier, but just keeping up this kind of split pressure. Delta Fox is not safe cutting through in their own jungle. They're late getting to the waves because of this. Their wards get controlled, and one by one objectives fall in Tempo Storm's favor.
And Tempo Storm, you mentioned, about 45 seconds left before that Baron is available on the map, so it looks like they might be trying to make a play down on a Dyrus' Selfie, throws out a skill shot in one direction, try to cut him off, and Wiggily shows up on the opposite side. We talked about the synergy between these two early on. It's going to continue here as Rek'Sai goes on the hunt, picks up another kill, a rampage now for Wiggily.
Surprising flash out of Quas there. You're pretty much guaranteed to be dead. You are just looking for some miracle team fight, and having your flash down as Gnar is one of the big CC tank front lines on the side of Delta Fox limits your options in trying to hope for that miracle team fight. Not the end of the world, like we said, because this game is pretty much all she wrote. So it's, you know, probably very low chance Delta Fox comes back, but you are just shaving those small percentages off your potential team fight victory.
Very true, and now the Baron is on the map. That is something that Tempo Storm may be setting their sights on soon, although they have decided to go back after picking up some tower gold and a couple of kills on the top side on this 0-7 and 0 Dyrus Gnar. The vision around the Baron pit is a little bit dark, although Tempo Storm, with the map control that they have, will most certainly be able to put wards up around there. Over 10,000 gold advantage at 20 minutes. It's a fairly large gold lead, if I'd have to say, from my statistical standpoint. Probably a 90th percentile kind of style, maybe 100th percentile, but Tempo Storm now going to have to utilize this large gold lead to close out this game. And then even still, they still have to take another game against Delta Fox, which, I mean, at this point, it's not looking like a difficult thing to do.
No, but I think it'd be a little sloppy to just assume that, oh, well, we smashed them game 2, we'll bounce back. Because this is mostly off the back of this Dyrus Snowball, looking like he's going to go down for his 8th time this game, just 20 minutes in.
No, gets an hour off, but goes down.
And you look at the deaths, he has
all of them.
66% of his team's deaths. He has 8 out of 12. So, yeah, I think if you're going to say, oh, yeah, we'll just snowball this hard on Dyrus every single time, that's a little bit of...
Oh, Selfie walks into a brush. Is this going to be the end of the no-hitter? He's exhausted. He's trying to sustain himself, but he goes down. Imaqtpie picks up the first kill of the game for Delta Fox.
Selfie was not able to flash over the wall, ends up going down. Culling onto Shiptur forces Delta Fox out of that area. Not able to get any objectives off the back of that kill, but a nice find for them. If there's any hope in this game, you got to take what you can get. A small bit of gold going to Imaqtpie, who we know when he gets ahead has the ability to carry.
And that's what happened on the Kalista in the last game. Even though he might not necessarily be ahead because of any sort of kills going to his side, he will be trying to match the Lucian at least. Blade of the Rune King and Static Shiv picked up here for Reven, whereas the Zeal and the Infinity Edge have been picked up for Imaqtpie. Most likely going to be going back and turning that into a Static Shiv of his own, which, or actually a Rapid Fire Cannon will be the first one that he gets, wants to keep himself a little bit safer. Does actually have the Nunu still, so there is still the scaling on the side of Delta Fox. So like we mentioned before, Tempo Storm can't play this one super sloppy. They're going to have to close it out while they have this gold advantage, because Delta Fox eventually could have that miracle team fight and eventually could have a late game Tristana, which is going to be a problem.
As you see the short range Reven kind of gets just snowballed every time. Scarra jumped on. Looks like Delta Fox want to try and turn this.
Ooh, a lot of flashes, a lot of ults being burned, including the flash absolute zero. She's actually going to get taken down. It's another kill going over to Imaqtpie, so the Tristana now 2-1 and 0 for themselves. Delta Fox, they'll look like they might want to try to chase down on this one, but have to be very respectful of the fact that Selfie's Karma, while it's a utility champion this game, still deals a decent amount of damage, especially with that new Athene's and Holy Grail. Shiptur actually jumping forward, gets the stun down onto Selfie, but the rest of Delta Fox really weren't on the same page to kind of chase after him. Voyboy very low on mana. Once again getting flash stuck here by Wiggily, has to flash away from this as well. But here comes Jax, a flash and a stun. There are the kills coming in one after another. A double kill picked up for Reven.
3 kills overall for the side of Tempo Storm. The jungler going down, most importantly. They're going to turn up onto this Baron now, grabbing one at 23.5 minutes into the game. Delta Fox found an opening, overstayed a little bit around that mid lane. It was nice they found that pickoff, but they were desperate for that objective. You can kind of taste that they wanted to get another kill just so that they could grab that mid turret. They overstay Quas with that pressure in the bot side. It flanks by getting a nice wraparound through the jungle, leads to a monster 3-man stun that the rest of the team is able to follow up on.
Now we have Jax being able to utilize his own teleport to split push to his heart's content on the bottom side of the map. He's just going to jump down on the Dyrus underneath the tower. He's got a frozen mallet of his own, has kind of gone forward and forgone the Titanic Hydra build. Instead, going forward for a little bit more tankiness and a little bit more stickiness. Meanwhile, Tempo Storm push on the top side, get another inhibitor.
Wants to give Gnar a bit of his own medicine, always known as being that perma-slow champion. Well, now you know what it feels like when you can't get away.
Yeah, and we see once again Shiptur going forward here, but not the rest of the Delta Fox squad kind of on the same page here. And without Imaqtpie or Voyboy, really, there's no damage really to follow up, and this just buys time for Jax to wrap around from behind.
Yeah, it's a situation where maybe there's a play there if all 4 people are ready to go turn instantly on top of them, but they weren't on the same page. They don't have any of the good follow-up, and there you see that big flank from Quas, stunning multiple members while Reven is able to chase up through that mid lane. And you know, it's 23 minutes in the game. Baron's on the table. You just took out the jungler, which is the big concern when you're playing against Nunu is when he gets a potential flash smite, consume, steal off, and the best way to prevent that from happening is kill him.
Yeah, once the Nunu's dead, can't do anything. Death is the best form of CC. Meanwhile, Tempo Storm now with this Baron buff. Still about 2 minutes left on that one. 7 towers already down. There's not many left on the map for them to take before they wind up taking the Nexus. So, Quas going to be split pushing up on this top side where the inhibitor is already down. Wiggily securing themselves a Mountain Drake, so that's going to only help aid in their quest to take down the few remaining towers Delta Fox has. Actually, Dyrus flashing aggressively, has Shiptur on the backside as well. They're going to wind up committing the Braum ultimate here, Quas as well. The transformation comes out from Gnar, so he's going to knock him against the wall, and everybody from Delta Fox is piling on poor Quas as he goes down. But Tempo Storm, they might be piling in to end the game. They take down that bottom lane inhibitor. They have Baron buff minions just pushing out onto the Nexus tower. It's already taken down extremely low. Dyrus has no Gnar available. We actually see Voyboy going very far in, taken very, very low. They pick up a kill onto Wiggily, but they do trade Scarra's life for this one. Delta Fox actually maybe trying to push in on this one, but Selfie is there to try to sustain himself up. Reven has the shield coming up from Karma. Ardent Sensor picked up here by Selfie in addition to Death Cap, so there's going to be damage and sustain coming out. Tempo Storm decide just to exit through the last remaining tower.
A little bit greedy there on the side of Tempo Storm. They lose someone right away and then try and fight a 4v5 inside of a base in front of double Nexus turrets. They end up in a 1-for-1. It could have gone worse potentially with a resetting Trist, but Imaqtpie not quite that strong yet. Reven has been playing this game pretty well overall, 4-0-1, and does a good job avoiding a lot of the damage coming out of Voyboy. That's the big threat for a Lucian, that short-range champion. Anytime you're up against a Viktor who has a ton of burst damage, well known for deleting AD carries, but there's no Lich Bane yet, so he's able to play pretty aggressive for now. And the concern is the potential stall out coming out of Delta Fox. Unfortunately, that double inhib's down now. Baron buff still up for them. One thing they want to go down left, and Scarra just got hooked.
Scarra gets hooked, Scarra goes down. Now they're trying to jump down onto Shiptur. The stun comes out there from the counter-strike of Jax. Reven in the meantime is going to be taking up tower shots like he's some sort of tanky champion. He's got all these shields coming out from Karma. The last inhibitor of the game is going to fall for Delta Fox, and they're going to be a hard press to try to defend this one. And with a couple seconds left of the Baron buff ticking away here from Team Tempo Storm, they're going to be ushering a wave of minions into those Nexus towers and going to be potentially trying to end the game with 3 waves of super minions coming in.
One of those situations as Tempo Storm that you might just have to sit around for a second, wait for those double super creeps to get in, or maybe you just land a hook.
Or you hook Voyboy in and take him down, and the Shiptur's going to fall after that. Dyrus gets a pretty decent Gnar against the wall, but it's just basically him and Imaqtpie against the world. Imaqtpie has to hop out, and now Scarra's joined the fray, but Quas says, I got some jumps too, jumps into the back line. Scarra tries to channel an absolute zero, but that's about how much damage it deals. Another good hook comes in from Sheep as Dyrus goes down for the 9th time this game. To flash forward from Selfie, trying to get damage down on the Imaqtpie and pad some KDA stats. That's going to be Tempo Storm answering with a resounding Game 2 victory.
Ties the series up for Team Tempo Storm off the back of a huge topside snowball. Wiggily identifying that as their big win condition, get that in their favor. They're able to get an advantage there, and then they have pressure all over the map. There's not too many playmaking tools on the side of Delta Fox early on. They are able to roam effectively around the mid lane. They take that early, and then once they have the top side of the map secured, they move down to the bot side. They're able to blow up that side of the map as well, and after that, it's just a complete snowball.
Yeah, Tempo Storm in this one executed their early game kind of like they wanted to in game number 1, where they weren't really able to get anything going with the Orianna pickup and moving around the map. Wiggily kind of took that into his own. Once he kind of set Jax up for success on the top side of the map, he's like, hey, we'll go down on the bottom side. We saw Karma being able to roam down there. They were able to transition that lead there. They got dragons, they got objectives, they got Rift Heralds. They had so many things on the map basically at 10 minutes into the game that by the time they took down a bunch of outer towers and they utilized the Rift Herald, Baron still wasn't even a thing on the map, and they were so far ahead, they kind of just had to sit back and wait for that and then close out the game.
Yeah, one of those games where you're so far ahead, you're ahead of the game even letting you win at that point. You have to wait for it to give you the tools to really end the game out, and it took a little bit to do that. Delta Fox found a couple kills. I think you saw potentially what their comp could have done from an even situation. You saw like the idea behind it. Just fell way too far behind the early game to do anything about it.
Yeah, definitely, but we got ourselves a series, so stick around for the final game in this match. We're back with Delta Fox versus Tempo Storm right after the break. But Quas going to continue to go in here. Double flash to stun to knock up the everything. First blood goes over to Quas at level 2. Tempo Storm all behind the tower. Onto poor Voyboy. Tries to flash away, tries to ghost away.
Dyrus pushed up again on the top side here.
Gnar stacks against the wall, but he's just going to wind up going down. Flash knockup coming out from Sheep. A jump forward from Quas as Wiggily gets on a killing spree. He takes down Cutie-Pie. Now Shiptur trying to find Sanctuary underneath his own tower. We talked about the synergy between these two early on. It's going to continue here as Rek'Sai goes on the hunt, but here comes Jax, a flash and a stun. There are the kills coming in one after another. A double kill picked up for Reven.